Welcome to Inside Auto Podcast, where we feature everyone and anyone you'd want to talk to in and out of the automotive industry.
Ilana Shabtai here, host of Inside Auto Podcast, where we interview top dealers, GMs, marketers, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders in and out of the automotive industry. And before we introduce today's guest, this episode is sponsored by AutoLeadStar.com. The AutoLeadStar platform is built on a technology so powerful it allows you to market, sell, and service cars as you would in the real world, online and at scale, making one-to-one matches between shoppers and inventory. AutoLeadStar is the only platform that is powered by scale, speed, and specificity to change the way dealers do marketing today. So today we have a very special guest. Thank you so much for joining us. Our guest is Russell Hill. Welcome to the show, Russell.
I appreciate it. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on, Ilana.
Yeah, we're excited to hit it off today. Well, before we start our questions and before we get into some of your expertise in the industry, I'll give you a quick intro here. Russell is managing partner at Fixed Ops Marketing, a new technology company specializing in increasing service visits while increasing revenue per RO through video, which is super exciting. We haven't spoken too much about video on this podcast, so I'm excited to hear more about that. Russell began his career working as a salesman at Tyson Buick in 1985. He eventually made his way up to GM at competition Chrysler Jeep. And then he decided to leave retail and come to the vendor side. So he made his way all the way to Fixed Ops Marketing, where he is today. Thank you so much again for joining us. We do like to start this podcast, although we did hear about your journey in automotive. We always like to hear how people ended up in automotive. What made you start working in retail automotive back in 1985?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
No, that's a good question. So it all started in 1968, probably before you were born, right? Yeah. But anyway, no, it started in 1968 when Hot Wheels came out. And I fell in love with Hot Wheels. I fell in love with cars. They've always been my passion. The automotive space has always been my passion when I got in 1985. And I was very fortunate. I was able to get out and, become a vendor. So now I'm on the outside looking in instead of on the inside looking out. So it's been a great journey. Love it.
Yeah. And it gives you two different perspectives. So every time I talk to someone who's done retail and vendor, I always feel like they have so much more perspective. I've never been in the retail side of automotive, but I can only imagine. It's funny, Hot Wheels, this is like a big hot topic in my house right now because my 2-year-old son really wants Hot Wheels, and we're waiting.
They're still big. They're still big. Yeah, they're
so big.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the best car toy you can get. So we should probably give in. But anyway, that's a really nice story, and that's different than most of the other ones that we've heard. So thanks for sharing that. Now tell us a little bit about Fixed Ops Marketing. I'd love to hear how you're incorporating video specifically.
Okay.
We'll start with that, and then I'd love to also hear some of the challenges that you're seeing on the Fixed Ops side with dealer as it pertains to dealer marketing today.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. So my partner and I, we had another technology company and we decided to leave that. A lot of different reasons why. You learn a lot about, partnerships and, et cetera, et cetera. So we put this idea together that what is the next big thing? What is the next big thing? Not unbeknownst to us, not even knowing, like nobody did, that COVID was coming on the scene. So we started this company called Fixed Ops Marketing. What we wanted to do is we believe that with all the research that we did by 2022, that over 80% of all consumer consumption would be video based. Now, the variable side of things on websites, which is where our stuff resides, is on websites, does a phenomenal job. But what pales in comparison from the downturn in '08 to COVID, just really bringing it to the forefront, so how essential service really is. Well, everything changed with COVID. And so how customers interact, and what we wanted to do is we don't want to drive necessarily more traffic to the dealerships because they're overwhelmed right now. What we want to do is help them create additional lines for per RO for the traffic that's already coming into the store. And we do that through video content. So we created these very aesthetically pleasing video coupons that with all different categories: repairs, diagnostics, brakes, tires, and alignments, etc. And what we were all about is delivering the right content, the right message at the right time, and making it easy for the consumer to convert the way they want to convert through text, email, phone call, printing, forms, etc. And one of the reasons in the whole backdrop of how we even design this product is because I am from the retail space, three things that come to mind when you're sitting down with anybody at a dealership. Here's all they care about. What is it? What does it do? And what's in it for me? And if you can, we solve two fundamental challenges that every dealership has. I don't care if it's fixed or the variable side, is they don't have any time and automation. And we solve both of those problems because our platform runs 24/7, 365.
And that's one of the most important things that dealers
are
investing in right now. Now, is this something that you put on the website? Is this something that they can trigger from the CRM? Tell me a little bit more about where these videos live.
So all of our stuff resides on the website. So if you go to, here's what you find today when you go to any dealership's website. I don't even have to look. I already know what's there because I've been in the space ever since, I was in retail when websites came onto the scene back in the mid-90s. So here's what you have when you go to service, parts, and accessories. Now, keep in mind that on any dealership websites, most of the time you have a specials content page in the top level navigation. That's where all four of the dealership's profit centers are located: new and used, and parts and service. Mm-hmm. So our stuff resides there. We also have a standalone top level nav for service and parts coupons that nobody's ever had before. Prior to our company, here's what you had. No specials at all because somebody has to manage it, right? Everybody's busy wearing multiple hats, another username and password they have to remember, and they're not managing it. Two, you have a static image that you can't do anything with. Customers can't do anything with static image. So the exit rates go through the roof with that kind of stuff. Or maybe you have a handful of specials, not much information on there, not very enticing. Some of them still have a picture of scissors cutting out a coupon. I mean, come on. Everybody's on these today, right?
We just talked about that in a previous podcast. Yeah, that cracks me up.
Yeah, and beyond that, you might be able to print or maybe even schedule service. There are some website platforms that have a texting feature that pales in comparison to what our stuff does. But regardless, what we're all about is, once again, when they get to our stuff and they see it, they're locked into the aesthetics and the fact that every one of them have a very, like what you said, short podcasts. These are short little videos that help dealerships. For every franchise dealership in the United States anyway, there's 16 non-franchise entities that are all jockeying for that same business. And they know dealerships have been sleeping at the wheel on the service, parts, and accessory side. So I don't care if it's Pep Boys, Firestone, Goodyear, Jiffy Lube, you name it, they're out there. They're all over the place. And so what we are all about is through automation and time, and our average store actually converts at 20%, which most people don't even track that kind of stuff. But we just want to pull all the dealerships out of the 20th century and pull them into the 21st century with our by revolutionizing the way that people interact with service, parts, and accessory coupons. That's pretty much it.
I think what you said in the way beginning of this topic is also really important to touch on, because you mentioned that you give the shopper the opportunity to convert the way that they want to convert: email, text, print. And that's critical to dealer strategy today. And I don't know if we talk about that enough, because there are some people that are going to want to print a coupon still, and there are some people that are going to want to get it texted to them. So I think when we talk about, conversion optimization and making sure that dealers are honing into the latest technology and the automation, it also becomes about customer-centric marketing. So I really love that you mentioned that. And I think that's a huge, huge factor into a dealer's success online.
Thank you. Yeah, it's awesome stuff. Our number one conversion tool is texting.
Yeah, I figured that.
Phenomenal.
So
yeah.
You just come in. Yeah, that's super easy. Now, how do you think, or tell us a little bit about how COVID has impacted, well, you started just a few months before COVID, so your business strategy is basically COVID, but how has COVID helped you pivot the strategy, or helped you help dealers pivot their strategy?
Well, it's been an interesting journey. So we rolled out our first product. We got 4 products now, but we rolled out our first product on January 7th last year, 1 month before COVID, really started creeping into things. And then, I think it was end of February, maybe first part of March, and it's full blown. I mean, everybody's freaking out. Vendors are crying the blues. Dealerships don't know what to do. There was everybody went to extremes, right? They didn't know how to handle this. Well, things, leveled out a little bit in March and April, and people started to figure it out. Yeah, sales departments, the antimicrobial wipe downs and spraying and and pick up and delivery, remoteless, contactless pay, all these things. So dealerships adapted pretty quick. But, I'd say at the end of February, maybe through March, we were kind of freaking out too. We got a lot of money through people that believed in me and my partner to build this platform out, which is just based on an idea. And we rolled it out, and then this happens. Well, at the end of April, 1st of May, our company started exploding. And we've been exploding ever since then. Now, things have been a little flat the last couple of months. We're still closing business, not like we were before, because dealerships are overwhelmed. Now you got people, as the states opened up, they're out driving summer road trips and all those types of things that have been cooped up for over a year. Well, dealerships right now on the service side and probably on the sales side because of chip shortages and inventory, et cetera, and that's all whacked out of control. But service departments are overwhelmed. They don't have enough technicians. They don't have enough advisors. Some places you can't even, major markets, you can't even stop in for oil change that day probably because they're overwhelmed.
They're like out some of the metro areas. It's really crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when I get somebody's attention, they get it when I show them our stuff. Because 75% of all traffic nationally that rolls into a dealership every single day is for oil changes. Okay. And so we start talking until they see the product. They go, Russell, look, your stuff is beautiful. Love it. But we don't need any more oil changes. I said, I know. That's why I wanted to demonstrate this product to you. They said, no. I love your stuff. Maybe later on, but right now we can't even keep up with I know. But how about getting additional lines for the traffic that's already coming in your store? They get it.
That's great.
That's what we do. We help them create additional lines.
That's great. Yeah. And now is a great time to be in service because no matter what, everyone's going to be servicing their cars now more than ever, like you mentioned, because people are just taking their cars and driving.
Yep.
So I think that's it's actually great. It ended up being great timing, although maybe last year, March, April, didn't feel that way.
All right.
Now, because you're in this side of the business, I also would love to know if you can share with us any of like the biggest challenges you see when it comes to marketing fixed ops, or the biggest mistakes. Challenges is a nicer way to say the mistakes that you see dealers make when it comes to marketing their fixed ops. So
that's a great question. There's probably a lot of different thoughts on that, but there's because of COVID, because of the lockdown, and because maybe another lockdown looming, service departments are responsible for paying all the bills. Everybody thinks the money is made in sales. It's really made in service. So the challenges in the future, or the shift is, what the defection rate at 36 months after people buy cars is astronomical. So it's retaining those customers and keeping them coming into the service department for the essential services. It's not about just selling them something. It's about recommended maintenance. Recommended maintenance, if you do recommended maintenance on vehicles, repairs cost you a lot less money overall. If you do not follow the recommended guidelines and routinely maintain your vehicle and bring it in for essential services, then it's going to cost you more in the long run. So there's a shift in thinking and changing. In addition to that, you got a lot of people that are retiring out of the market, master technicians and stuff like that. So then we have the millennials and we got the Gen Xers and Yers, and a way to cultivate and nurture those people, particularly women, in my opinion, is a big push into the service side of things and the money is astronomical. If you think about it, most people that go to college, get a degree, come out heavily debt laden, 92%, my numbers may be off 1 or 2 percentage points, but I'm really close. They don't even work in the chosen field. They just got a degree in coming out of school heavily debt laden. So this is a tremendous opportunity for young men and women to come into the industry and make $55,000 to $120,000 a year to start. So this is the paradigm shift that's taken place.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And we should be, I think, better as an industry at attracting people right out of college, right out of high school, people who are just motivated and want to learn.
Exactly.
And learn quickly. That's exactly what we should be doing as an industry. And I think slowly we're realizing that, and people are talking about
we are.
it more. Yeah.
I agree.
So that's going to be interesting to relive. And what do you know about, or are you preparing at all for EVs? I know that in the next 10 years, that's probably going to be 50%, if not more of the cars that dealers are going to be selling.
Well, I don't know if, but the answer is yes. The short answer, I don't know if it'd be 50%. I think, but it's coming, Alana. It's coming.
Yeah.
And so, there's a misnomer out there that, oh my God, we're not gonna be able to service cars. Well, that's just not true. It's another paradigm shift. It's an educational thing. There's going to be plenty of money to be made on in service departments for EVs. Electric vehicles are going to be huge. We're adapting and getting ready for that right now because they're obviously in the marketplace. So we're going to have specialized landing pages and stuff like that. For those types of people are different types of buyers right now too. So you got to cater to that type of service customer or buyer, et cetera.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Always cater to the audience. I had someone on this podcast. His name is Matt Tedesco. He works for Shift Digital, and he recently finished his MBA, and he did his thesis on EVs. So a lot of the podcast be focused around what it's going to look like with EVs. And he spoke a little bit about the service industry, and he said that while there may be fewer service visits, the service visits are going to be more expensive. So in the end, I think the profit center for the dealer will, as you mentioned, nothing's going to change. It's probably going to be the same, maybe fewer visits, but the revenue is still there because it's going to be more expensive. So that's kind of his hypothesis, and we'll see.
I agree.
Yeah, great. I'm glad we're on the same page. I'm excited for EVs to take over. I think it will be an interesting shift for us to live through.
It's going to be huge. It's not like gas vehicles are going to go away or anything like that. But it's going to, next 20 years, we're talking a total change here.
Yeah.
And we need to start preparing today, not tomorrow, not next week, not next year, today.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of OEMs are preparing for it, and a lot of new models are coming out. And I don't know if necessarily the dealerships are at that same pace.
No.
And there's a lot of competition out there. So we really have to be prepared. With Tesla and Lucid and some of the others. So hopefully the dealers listening will take our advice, Russell.
Right. That's right.
Anything else you want to share with our listeners today? You've been such a wealth of knowledge. So anything else that you can share with us would be a great way to end this podcast episode.
No, I think, maybe in closing, less is more on the websites. My expertise is in marketing. And I don't care if it's on the variable side or on the fixed side. It doesn't make any difference. Less is more. So if you have a lot of clutter on your websites, for example, in your top level navigation, as people are clicking through there, and then you have these drop downs in the top level nav, right? If you have more than 7 or 8 items in the top level nav, I see some that got 15 or 20 different things to click on. Customers get agitated. Think about your own shopping habits. When you're looking for something, you got to find it in 3 clicks or less, because that 4th click, exponentially, your exit rates go up. So you need to serve up what the customer's looking for, make it engaging and enticing and easy for them to convert or do whatever it is they want to do. If you got more than 7 or 8 items in the drop down, it creates a tremendous amount of anxiety because you're looking for whatever it is you're looking for, and you get frustrated and you end up exiting. So these are ways that dealerships need to start thinking about the future, which starts today, in marketing and making your websites attractive, engaging, enticing, and informative.
Awesome. I think that's a very strong note for us to end on here. And I think it's extremely important for dealers to take that in. So Russell, thank you so much for joining us today. I loved the conversation. I think it's stuff that we don't always talk about. So thank you for bringing that content to us here on Inside Auto Podcast. And if you liked this episode, to our listeners, please tune in, Inside Auto Podcast. You can find us on all mainstream outlets, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, you name it. We'll catch you next time. Thanks, Russell, again.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Inside Auto Podcast. Check out our other episodes with top entrepreneurs and industry leaders.